Hi everyone. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the new moon in Pisces that is coming up on the 19th of March. Now, I'm going to make this quite a short video because I've already recorded a few days ago a much longer video for the Aries equinox, and this new moon in Pisces happens only about 37 hours before the Aries equinox. So the astrology is actually very, very similar. So I'm just going to be mentioning some of the differences when we have this new moon in Pisces. And there is nothing particularly significant after, although the Aries equinox is absolutely huge, as you'll hear in the other video, and I'll put the link for that below, as I say. But other than Neptune staying on the world axis for the entire month, that is significant, and of course raises Neptunian symbolism onto the public stage in a big way, which is what we're seeing already. So let me just start to share the chart with you so you can follow along as we go. Okay, so this is for the new moon in Pisces, and in the UK this is happening very early morning, 1:25 a.m. on the 19th of March. And so whenever we have a new moon, we have the sun and moon together, which we have down here at 28 of Pisces. And this is virtually on the anaretic degree, and it is also on the world axis, because anything between 28 degrees of the mutable signs that are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius or Pisces, up to 2 degrees of the cardinal signs, and those are Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. Those are the 4 world axis points around the chart. So this is again showing whatever is happening around that time is going to be likely to be very big and on the public stage. And of course we have 10 tons happening on the world stage right now. But it is very linked to Pisces, the shadow side of Pisces, in a way, because it's virtually at that anaretic degree. And what the anaretic degree tends to do is to bring up the more difficult side of a sign very often. So that is linked to deception and lies and addictions with drugs, pharmaceutical drugs of all kind, toxicity, pollution, issues around blood, that kind of thing. Obviously the seas and the oceans. And in fact, this new moon is conjunct a fixed star called Sheet, S-H-E-A-T. And that is often linked to misfortunes, particularly at sea. So let's hope that nothing too dramatic happens there. But of course, this sun and moon is also conjunct Neptune anyway, and conjunct Saturn. So it is really activating the Neptune-Saturn conjunction yet again, with all that I've said about that over the last year and more. And so our intuition will be very highlighted, our dreams, our psychic sensitivity. This is a new moon, it's a new seed, it's a new beginning. So see where it falls in your chart, see which house area. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can download a free birth chart from my website. And if you go to this link below, you can get a 2-part video series that you can watch forever, to infinity. This is not a personalized birth chart analysis. These are teaching videos to help you find these points in your chart for every update I do, and help you understand which areas of life are being activated for you. And it's really the beginning of your astrological journey. And as I say, you can watch those videos forever. And so, yes, this sense of greater intuition, psychic sensitivity, it could be telepathy, dreams more vivid, but a real sense of a new you, a new spiritual you, conjunct Neptune, a new spiritual you that is much more fluid and malleable, flowing with the oneness of all that is. That's the feeling that's starting to come in here. And of course, just the next day on the 20th, we have that Aries equinox, which is so dramatic and very powerful energy with so many planets in Aries, really giving us a kind of initiation, ignition, rebirth, relaunch for humanity. And we're just within whispers of that, just a few hours of that happening. Flooding is obviously another major one here as well. There's been so much flooding across the world. I mean, Portugal, Spain, southeast France. I mean, as I mentioned in the last video, I think I know some people who've had to boil their swimming pool water because no water in the mains coming out of the taps. New Zealand, huge storms. I mean, many areas have experienced extreme weather. So let us hope this all abates. The other thing I would point out here is just look at the concentration of planets in Pisces and Aries. You know, again, a very steamy lunation, a steamy chart, water, fire. We only have one of the traditional planets in Earth, and that is Uranus. But Uranus, of course, represents, if we're looking for Earth for stability, Uranus is the planet of instability and the unexpected. So that doesn't really help us with stability. We only have one of our traditional planets in air, and that is Pluto in Aquarius. All the rest are water and fire. So this in combination tends to be very reactive. So please just really, whatever you're hearing or seeing or reading, or firstly think, is it true? And how do you know it's true? Is it true and how do you know it's true? And secondly, take a breath before you respond or react, because this is extremely reactive energy. This can be quite tough on the nervous system as well. The nervous system is very activated here. That's partly Pluto in Aquarius. And it's also the Pisces energy, because that can lend itself to victim energy where you feel very stressed. So remember all of the simple things we've talked about, you know, bare feet on the grass, doing breath work, candle gazing, really take time out for stillness. But what is interesting here is if we look at the Sabian symbol for 29 of Pisces, remember you always have to round up to the next degree to look at the Sabian symbol. So the Sabian symbol for 29 of Pisces is birthing a new light from within. Birthing a new light from within. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, we already know that we are receiving a huge number of new light codes from our sun and our galactic core. But also we have, of course, biophotons within us. That's how our intracellular network of communication works, how the cells communicate with each other. And you can often, you know, many of us can see a kind of sort of halo around people's heads. You can see that biophotonic aura around people's heads. And so we are literally starting to become, well, moving towards Homo luminous, of course, becoming more shining, more obviously shining. We are generating more light because we are embodying more light being received from the cosmos. And so, you know, with all this intuition coming in, and look at Mercury. Mercury is the planet of the mind, but here it's in Pisces, as it is at the Aries equinox, of course, and very tightly conjunct the North Node. So our collective soul's path of travel, of growth, is to start using our intuition and our heart to navigate life rather than our head. Because Mercury in Pisces operates very intuitively, not analytically, much less mental, if you like. Now, the sun and moon here, the new moon, in a very tight, exact by degree sextile to Uranus. And so that is going to bring in some new and a lot of innovations, I think, innovations to do with our bodies. That's happening a lot already in terms of biohacking, increased health, increased longevity, a lot. If you're interested in that, just go onto YouTube and type in longevity videos, and you'll be absolutely flooded. Or biohacking. And these are new methods, because it's still in Taurus here, the body, of making ourselves healthier, and intuitive methods of doing that too. More meditation, more breath work. But it's also to do with agriculture, of course. Taurus is to do with food production. And because of the extreme weather, it may well be that we have to develop some new methods of food production, because a lot of the fields have just been absolutely flooded out and the vegetables have rotted in the earth. I know that's happened to a lot of winter vegetables in the UK, for instance. And so I think innovation in agriculture is going to be a big thing here as well. Also, Uranus is the planet linked to electromagnetism. We're going to understand a lot more about ourselves as electromagnetic beings. And also, once Uranus tips into Gemini, which it will do on the 26th of April, and then all of the outer planets will be in their new signs from that point on and will not retrograde back to their previous signs for the rest of their cycles in those signs. It was when Uranus was in Gemini in a previous cycle in 1690 that a Dutch scientist, Huygens, developed a new theory of light, that light was a wave. And so I think we are going to discover, looking at this chart, a huge amount going forwards about light, about water for sure, and Veda refers to water as condensed light. I think, I'm just starting to, I was going to say dig deep, but I think it's dive deep into water and it being absolutely primary in everything in the universe in a bigger way than I've understood it before, but more of that another time. But if you look at your own chart and particularly see where the signs of Pisces and Aries are falling, they will fall across at least 2 houses, possibly 3 houses for you. And those are going to be very activated in the next month or so. I've talked about a lot of the other aspects in this chart for the Aries equinox. Just a couple of other things to pick up here. Venus is semi-square to Uranus here. This could suggest some radical shifts on the currency markets. I mean, there's a lot happening with crypto markets right now, also precious metals markets. There's a lot of, strange things going on behind the scenes with a lot of big buying. And so it could be because Taurus is precious metals too. My sense is that the direction of travel for precious metals is upward, because there's going to be a lot of uncertainty in the world because of the war situation, etc. I'm not a financial advisor or even a financial astrologer, but that is my feeling, because when Jupiter is in Cancer, it tends to support silver. And remember, with the precious metals, and also this is true of cryptos, they are never going to go up in a straight line, ever. They are both very volatile. They're going to be jigging up and down, but it's looking at the broad direction. At the end of the year, are you better off than when you started? Once Jupiter moves into Leo in July, that tends to support gold. That's just a broad brushstroke, very broad brushstroke going forwards. We also have Mars in an exact to the degree beautiful trine to Jupiter. This is a very favorable aspect. This has a tremendous sense of focus and purpose. Focus and purpose to improve our sense of safety, Cancer, self-care, nurturing not only for self, but for all of our brothers and sisters across the world. And great compassion. So there's this feeling of, okay, We are really identifying and empathizing with our brothers and sisters in extreme situations, whether it's weather or war or whatever. What can we do? This very clear sense of driving purpose to improve, that intention I suggest you set for every meditation. This is my highest good of all, and highest good of the earth. But this will also energize our future visions and our future plans as well going forwards. The other thing I'd like to point out, because it's so exact, is Homer at 352 of Scorpio is in a quincunx to Saturn at 356 of Aries. Now that's only a 4-minute difference from exactitude, from absolute precision. So even though a quincunx may be thought of as a less major aspect, which I don't think it is, actually, I think it's a really important aspect, the exactitude brings it into potency. And if we think of Saturn in Aries, one of the meanings, which I've spoken about before, is new structures, new Aries structures, Saturn, that have a spiritual context, Neptune. And these are new also because these are all conjunct the new moon. And Homer also has in her mythology a link with new structures, because in her fire goddess aspect, she was said to birth the 8 islands of Hawaii. She's got this eruptive quality, whether she's birthing the islands of Hawaii in her fire goddess aspect, or the lava, spewing up to become new land, or whether she is just birthing babies from all over her body, or regenerating herself from an old crone to a young maiden. There's this eruptive regenerative quality to Homer. And as I was preparing for this, I was really thinking about it, and it instantly took me back to an analogy that I used a few years ago, but it's just so right for now, particularly as we're just literally tipping into the Aries equinox the very next day, the 20th of March. And it's relevant now because, people often say to me, okay, so where is New Earth? Show me. I can see 10 tons of evidence of the current world and, the predictable wars and suffering and strife and geopolitical spats and political spats. I can see 10 tons of evidence of that. I see no evidence of New Earth. Well, the answer to that is, firstly, it's a frequency that you have to embody. It's within us. You have to feel it, and you have to feel those emotions on a regular and ideally continuous basis of love, of joy, of gratitude, of compassion, of peace. Those are the elements of New Earth frequency. And when you start to feel them, you embody them, you become New Earth, literally, you become New Earth. And it's then that you sort of start to live in the magic zone of synchronicity, because you just meet the right person, you suddenly hear about the right opportunity, you turn to the right page in the book, somebody says you've got to meet so-and-so, there'd be a perfect connection for the new idea or the new business you're going to start up. It's effortless. It's effortless once you're in that kind of New Earth flow. Already there are hundreds of communities all over the world, people coming together of like mind. They're growing food, they're collaborating, they're building businesses together, they're sharing their skills. You're never going to hear about them on the news. They're doing that very quietly for obvious reasons. But it's when you get on that frequency that you connect with them. So it isn't judgment, it's just like the old-fashioned radio dial. You have to be tuned into that frequency. Once you embody New Earth, that's when all of those things start to happen, and your reality becomes very different. Effortless and magical becomes very different. And then you can actually see how New Earth is emerging in your reality, along with others. So it took me back to this analogy I'd used a few years ago, but as I say, I think it's very relevant for now. And um, because people often say nothing's happening, I just think it's 10 times happening in the world, but anyway, nothing's happening. It's like we're staring at a hen's egg, regular chicken egg, in its shell. And we've been staring at this egg for quite some time, thinking, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. But actually, a whole new life, a whole new biology is being formed within that shell. And one day, the little baby chick will choose, this is the day that I'm big enough to emerge into the world because I have outgrown the shell, Saturn. Saturn rules structures and shells. So it breaks out of it, its little beak cracks the shell, breaks out of it. And the old structure, Saturn, is now redundant, obsolete, and literally outgrown because it has already produced this new life from within. We are all new Earth chicks, may I suggest. We are all new Earth chicks, and we are building, we are creating, we are embodying a new biology, which you will have heard me talk about with many others, with Nancy Rebecca, with Kelly Konodny, with David Clements, with many other people, Richard Rudd, Lee Harris. We are birthing a new upgraded biology, but it will appear hidden until you are ready to be on that frequency, until that birth is ready to emerge, that new biology is ready to emerge much more fully in the world. So we are a brigade of new Earth chicks. So I hope that's a helpful analogy. I'm going to keep this video short because, as I say, I said so much in the Aries equinox video, and I'll put the link for that below. Know that these are immensely powerful times. And the Aries equinox is this year, because it's so much bigger than a normal equinox, is like this launch pad, this rebirth, this ignition, this whole new start for humanity, which I truly believe it is. So hope that's helped you. God bless, and be back soon with something different. Bye for now.